Potential of Nemu, Parallel Market. A journey to a successful listing on Nemu, Parallel Market. Moderator, Rebecca McLaughlin Eastham. TV presenter, event host and moderator.
Assalamu alaikum, sabah al-khair, excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me at the flagship, the inaugural Saudi Capital Market Forum in Riyadh. Congratulations to Nadi for its stunning debut this morning, and of course I'm honored to follow Khaled Al-Hassan's inspiring remarks. What an incredible time for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and of course the Saudi Tadawul Group. Today, we have brought together thought leaders, visionaries, and financial experts who are really shaping and changing the landscape of the kingdom's capital market. And for our first panel, my esteemed guest and I will really drill down into the critical topic of SMEs. And as we know, of course, their support and their access to capital has been so nurtured. It's been a key priority of the kingdom. Of course, given that they have high hopes for the SME sector, not least for it to contribute up to 35% of GDP under Vision 2030. And so, without further ado, let's get down to business. You want to hear from the experts in the room, so let me introduce you to them. I would like to welcome to the stage from the audience my panelists. Firstly, we have Abdullah Al-Shalish. He is the acting CEO of Al Khair Capital, of course, a leading financial services and asset management firm. Please give him a very warm welcome. Next, we have Ahmed. He is the CEO of Al-Khibir Capital, the prominent asset management company specializing in alternative investments. Please welcome him also. Next, I'm delighted to be joined by Abdulaziz Al-Omran, the Vice Chairman and Board Member of Jahez. Please welcome him also. And completing my fantastic lineup, please welcome to the stage Mohammed Al-Koud. He's the CEO of Burgerizer, which we all know and love. Please welcome him too. Gentlemen, thank you for being part of this landmark flagship panel. What an honor to kick things off. Expectations are high, so we won't let you down with our engaging, dynamic conversation. Abdullah, let me come to you first. We're aware of the growth, the expansion of Nomu, not least since 2009. It's been exponential in terms of doubling listings. Where do we go from here? It's not without its challenges, not least because of the global economic picture. But talk to me about where we are and where we're going.
Sure. First of all, Rebecca, thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be speaking to you, and such an honor to be speaking to His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Al-Gwaiz and the Chairman of Tadawul, Mr. Khaled Al-Hassan. Speaking of Numu market growth, we have seen exponential growth and tremendous growth in the market. If we look at the market in 2019, until today, it grows more than 700%. So in 2019, we only have 10 companies, or maybe less than that, and now we have more than 25 companies in the market. And also we have seen the multiple, if you look at the multiple valuation in Numu market, it gives the shareholders a high premium. And we think this will continue growing, and it will increase in the next 2 years. In Al Khair Capital, we have more than 45 mandates only for direct listing in Numu market. And I'm sure our competitors and our colleagues, they have same number or more than that. So I think also Numu market help the family businesses to grow and have more sustainability. So hopefully we see more companies coming soon, inshallah.
Definitely, and I want to come on to family businesses, so important to our conversation and the longevity of Nomu. I'll come on to liquidity and challenges also a little bit later on, but Ahmed,
Sure.
let me come to you next. Given the importance of the SME sector that I touched upon in my opening remarks, and of course feeding into the growth of the Saudi economy, what do you see Nomu's role as being? How does it play into that wider strategy?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Rebecca, for your question. No doubt, Numu or the SME sector is one of the most pillar for any growing economy in the world. I mean, if you want to see, or if you want to achieve better job creation capacity, sustainability of private sector, and if you want to really notice the meaning of what we can call the power of ideas, then we have to focus on SME. Today, SME sector in Saudi Arabia has hundreds of thousands of companies, and it provides jobs for millions of people. And I think with the right attention and the right focus, it could provide millions of jobs in the future. Let us see how can Numu really foster the development of SME sector. I mean, before Numu has been launched, SME owners and shareholders who were serious about the continuation of their businesses and who wanted at that time to list their companies in the main market, it was a real challenge for them. So Numu, when we launched Numu in 2017, Numu came up with a hope to those SME sector, especially those who want to care about their continuation of business among generation. They would like to have a sort of access to liquidity. So Numu, what Numu did directly and indirectly, it actually encouraged those SME owners to care more about transparency, governance, sustainability of performance, maintainability of earning, for them to be listed in Numu. So here we see what is really the value add of Numu as a tool to encourage and improve the efficiency of the SME sector. But if we look at Numu today, Numu, with an economy as big as the economy of Saudi Arabia, we have only 25 companies listed. I'm sure none of the participants is satisfied with this number of securities being listed in Numu. I believe if we want to use Numu as a vital tool to improve the efficiency of the SME sector, we should look at the 1,000 plus companies. I mean, let's look at some of the international examples. In the UK, we have AIM, they have around 800 plus companies. Kosdaq in South Korea, their parallel market is 1,600 companies with a market cap of $300 billion versus $10 billion of Numu. So I know that the CMA and Tadawul have really promised the market by increasing their capacity in reviewing, assessing, and approving files, and they're doing a great job in that. I think now they are reviewing 70 or 80 or 90 files between Numu and main market. But is that enough? And I think still it's not enough. No matter how can they increase the capacity, still the capacity of the regulator is limited. One of the recommendations that I think the CMA and Tadawul should really consider, today within the capital market institution sector, we have really a top-class financial advisors. Those financial advisors, they do have a track record when it comes in preparing file, reviewing and assessing the IPO file. I think it's about time to consider to give them most of the responsibility of the regulator in reviewing, assessing, and confirming the fulfillment of Numu requirement with every single Numu file is raised. So theoretically speaking, they will act as a proxy to the CMA, to the regulator, in approving Numu file with the supervision of Tadawul and within the context of the CMA that would really put in place. I mean, end of the day, the more securities we have the Numu, the better we can really benefit from that tool. On the other hand, this is one angle. The second angle is the liquidity. We need to ensure that also there is an optimum liquidity entering the market in line with the number of securities that are going to be raised. We know all that Numu market is limited to qualified investors, so I think it's about time to review and expand the definition of qualified investors to add more categories of investors entering the market. End of the day, to wrap up my answer, I believe that having a parallel market with 1,000 plus companies could really be perceived as a vital tool toward allowing the SME sector to achieve its objective, whereby being a participant to 35% of our GDP. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So much to discuss, and I really do want to come back to you in terms of liquidity and market expansion. But I will come to all of my guests first for an introduction. Abdulaziz, a very warm welcome. It's great to see you. Jahez had a stunning debut last year, the biggest, in fact, on the market. Why was it the right time? Why was it the right route? And how is this playing into the bigger conversation about SME financing in Saudi?
Okay, so, well, thank you for this opportunity, Rebecca, and thank you for the time to speak here, all the renowned guests here. I think Jahez, was built from the beginning by passionate entrepreneurs that had customer pains at the forefront of their objectives. They strive to deliver value to all the different stakeholders. I think Jahez was meant to be a listed company from the beginning, just by the fact that it comes from the sharing economy, and there is nothing resembles the sharing economy more than being listed on the stock exchange itself. I hope Jahez affects the SME financing ecosystem through its investments. As announced previously, Jahez has intentions to expand its business through inorganic growth, whether through direct investment or share issuance. And being listed certainly helps drive that and opens the doors for many, many opportunities. We already see this by different companies approaching Jahez to explore synergies, explore collaboration opportunities. So I think that was a piece that was missing in our ecosystem. A company that is a target for IPO, for acquisitions. So you grow a company, but you don't really. We lacked the large corporates that acquired the smaller startups. We hope that the Jahez's listing, and hopefully many others, will help ease that pain.
Thank you. From one listing to another, Mohammed, let me come to you. Of course, 2021, so your market listing, 500%, 500 times oversubscribed. Again, another stunning debut. The question could be, why go to market? But I'll flip it. Why wouldn't you go to market? Why was this the obvious choice? And what are you doing with it?
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. And I'm very happy and honored to be here with my distinguished colleagues and all the attendees. Interesting way to put it. Why not go to the market? I think for us in Burgerizer, alhamdulillah, we have been growing, and we have been, we would say, aggressively growing. We had plans and objectives to reach 200 branches by 2025, and to us, it was part of institutionalizing the company. So we wanted to continue the growth. Our ambitions and drive for growth was very, very strong. So it was part of positioning the company for its next chapter. Institutionalizing the company in such a way where it's poised and takes the opportunity for taking it to that next level. There are many benefits to that. So benefits to the company, benefits to the shareholders and the stakeholders. From stability point of view, with its inherent governance, from financial access to finance and financial stability, as well as helping the shareholders, as my colleagues just mentioned, helping the shareholders unlock their potential, and as well helping the company unlock its potential as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you. Abdullah, I want to touch upon what we were discussing with Ahmed at the top, that of liquidity,
Sure.
and also growing the market. I mean, comparing it to something like AIM, will we get there? What's on the horizon for you, and how do we address liquidity challenges?
Yes, liquidity is always a concern for all the companies, whether it's SMEs or large companies. But in Numu market, we have a short of liquidity, so the total value per day is about 50 million. I agree with my colleague Ahmed when he said we would like to add more players to enter Numu market so they can inject more money and we can have more liquidity in the market. That's for the short-term investors. For long-term investors, they don't have issue with liquidity because they wait for 2 years and they graduated to main market, and in the main market they can have more or they can have the liquidity they are looking for. So again, I think if we allow more individuals to enter Numu market, that will help a lot. And at the same time, I know regulators and CMA and Tadawul, they are worried about the individual investors. They're trying to protect investors, and the SMEs or the companies that list in Numu market are not required to have, for example, complete legal due diligence. So that might create that might have a risk on the individuals. But I think we can together, the private sector and CMA and Tadawul, we can tweak these points and try to come up with a new solution to enhance the liquidity in the market.
Thank you. New solutions to enhance liquidity in the market, more regulation. Ahmed, what's on your wish list? Speaking to people in the room today, what would you wish and push for in terms of greater regulation or something to streamline the process and grow the market further? We want more players, we want more to come to market. And based on our discussions so far, what can capital market institutions really do to be a catalyst and facilitate that growth?
Yeah, okay. Actually, capital market institutions, they can participate to the growth of Numu market from two perspectives. I mean, from their perspective as a financial advisors, as we said, if the regulator can qualify and nominate our top 10 or top 15 financial advisors in the kingdom, whereby they will act and they will assess the regulator in approving more Numu files. So instead of seeing 70 files per annum, we may reach a position where 70 or 80 files per quarter could be approved. I mean, from other perspective, the private equity. Why private equity? If we look at the US market, 30% of the IPO in the US market are considered private equity-backed IPO. We have a good number of capital market institutions who have a true skin in the game when it comes to private equity. Private equity could be run by a capital market institution or family office or other private investment houses. But if private equity is under the umbrella of capital market institutions, still they have a further responsibility. One of their value add is really how to convert a privately held investment into tradable security. Now, if we want to do usually private equity, the classic way of operating it is by buying a privately held investment, work on them for 5 to 7 years, sometimes to 10 years, and then sell them to another private equity investor. But when it comes to capital market institution, I think the extra value add is to use our capabilities in how we can convert that privately held investment into tradable security to the market. The more we can do that, the better, and the more quality securities can be offered to Numu market. Now, some of the argument would say, well, then private equity could be using Numu as an exit path. There is nothing wrong about this as long as they are offering to the market equality securities given their track record in assessing and reviewing those kind of transactions. Any transaction that passed a private equity process, it means that it passed a very strict due diligence process. So this is one of the initiatives that can capital market institution do to boost the efficiency and the ecosystem of, let me say, Numu market. Today, and I wish definitely for tomorrow, that at least 20 or 25% of the new IPO in Numu market shall be in a private equity-backed IPO.
Excellent. Something to look forward to, milestones for the years ahead. Let me come to you, Abdulaziz. In terms of your future plans, domestically, we know where you stand, very popular, but regionally, internationally, talk me through the big plan, the strategy going forward.
Excellent. Yes, Jahez had also announced its intentions to grow in the region and internationally. I think the fact that we are listed on the Saudi Stock Exchange made this a natural exit for a lot of the companies in the neighboring countries. The Saudi Stock Exchange in my view at least, is the most dynamic market and the most thriving market in the region. And despite some people maybe talking, some of my colleagues were talking about liquidity, we're still ahead of all the regional markets. So that in of itself places Jahez and any listed company actually on the Saudi Stock Exchange a very good exit path for any companies in the countries around us. So just as I said about the local companies approaching Jahez for acquisition opportunities, we've also seen it from cross-border companies that see Jahez or the Saudi Stock Exchange as the only viable path for them to be listed. So I think we need to be wary here of the responsibility we have when we're shaping the Saudi market and adding dynamism into the market. I think we're not only impacting Saudi, but we also have ripple effects across the region. We as Jahez have been benefiting from that. We haven't done any transactions yet, but we've had numerous discussions for sure.
Thank you so much. Mohammed, would you agree that being listed on the parallel market, or indeed any Saudi exchange, is not only something to be proud of, but it's also a financial stamp of approval, not just in the region, but internationally?
Yes, it's an important place to be when you are thinking about. It's a very important place to be when you are thinking about where you are in the market. It does add an additional level of credibility, and it does add an additional level of financial security to stakeholders, whether internal or external. So being being listed in the stock market gives visibility to stakeholders, and as mentioned by my guest as well, by my colleague, that it gives you other opportunities for growth. So, for example, acquisition. Being listed in the stock market and your shares being in the stock market, it's like a currency. So it's an additional tool that you can tap into for any acquisition opportunity.
What about transition to the main market? Speak to those in the room who might even be considering listing on Nomu. How easy was the process? And as you continue to grow, do you envisage a seamless transition to the main Tadawul?
Now, I think listing in any market is always a unique experience for any company. So making sure that you have the right partners, the right financial partner, the right legal partner is very important, because it's something that you need to navigate. Therefore, having the right partners makes it increases your chances for a successful listing. And going to the main market, for us, it was very important to go to Nomu. We wanted to accumulate the learning. That was very important for us. And then assess the main market. We wanted to make sure that we establish all the requirements that are needed to be in the main market. So today we feel that if not 100%, we are 90% ready to go to the main market from the establishment point of view. So making sure that we tick all the boxes, we are ready. We want to be sure that from a practice point of view, we are there.
Okay, that's good to know. So, Abdulaziz, I want to come back to you quickly. Burgerizers say that they're 90% compliance ready to make a transition to the main market. How do you stand at Jahez?
I know we are ready 100%, yet we haven't actually applied or asked for the upgrade. We haven't discussed it internally. We see it as we will apply all the governance because we want to apply it, not necessarily because we need it to be upgraded. We hope to be, I think being a great company places a lot of responsibility on you, and applying the best governance standards is only is a given, I think, for any great company. So we're applying it regardless. To be honest, we are happy with the with the investor base that we have in Nemo. We managed to attract a lot of international investors, a lot of institutional investors that add a lot of diversity to the investor base, I think, in Nemo as a whole. That's not my claim only. I've heard that from our financial advisors and different stakeholders in the market as well. So we're not in a rush to upgrade, let's say. Be nice to upgrade, but we haven't decided on that yet. At the right time, we will apply, and we think we know we are ready. We just need to pick the right time.
Timing is everything, so watch this space. We wait with bated breath. Ahmed, let me come to you. How important are the ethics, the ESG, the CSR, as it was, of companies, not only in terms of listing, the considerations that they need to have in place, but also from an asset management point of view? How much are investors and stakeholders, shareholders looking for good corporate governance and good ethics when it comes to these listing companies?
Yeah, definitely. When we talk about governance, when we talk about ESG, all these are very important and vital tools to improve the efficiency and even the performance of the companies. Being a listed company, it means that we have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to code of ethics, when it comes to applying the professional segregation between ownership and management, avoiding conflict of interest. Too many things that really can put really these things in place toward an efficient SME sector or an efficient institutional business. If we want to convert a private companies into a true institutional, with a true institutional approach, then we have to apply all these things that you have mentioned.
Do you see increased regulation coming in from the CMA or TDAWL to that effect? This morning we had news from the United States about the SEC ramping up their rules and regulations for listed companies, cracking down on disclosure accountability, their green credentials, net zero, etc. Do you see that increasingly creeping into NOMU as well for listing companies?
Well, Anna, what I see most importantly for Nemo, that we need to think about how we can enrich the scope of Nemo. And this is very important. I mean, let me put it this way. I believe there are three things that need to be added to Nemo market, to be considered, just to enrich the scope of Nemo and to get the maximum out of it. I believe when it comes, for instance, to venture capital. Venture capital is very important. And therefore, venture capital to succeed and benefit from Nemo, it would require the regulator to think about a sort of regulatory waivers to ease the process of listing successful startups. I would love to see Nemo a hub for successful startups. Why is that? Because this will accelerate the growth of the ecosystem of the startup. I mean, with every venture capital investor, whenever he knows that, well, they can really offload their successful startup to Nemo and free their cash and use it again in creating more startups in the sector and in the market, this will act as a feeder to the SME, and then the SME will act as a feeder to the big companies, which will be emigrated eventually to the main market. This will give us the real meaning, as I said, what we call power of ideas. It's all about power of ideas. This is all about startups. I mean, the second thing that I believe we should really think about it to enlarge the scope of Nemo is the investment fund. Capital market institutions need to be encouraged to have a different kind of specialty funds, especially something like the Equity Nemo Fund, the ETFs in Nemo, a debt fund that could be used to finance the operating activities of the SME sector. And lastly, the bonds and the commercial paper. I know that NMO is an equity capital market index, but I think either we have to expand NMO to accept debt instruments, or if we can create a parallel market that incubate debt instrument. By this, the issuer from the SME sector can issue sukuk and commercial paper to finance their operating activities. And here we can get really the main objective of having a market that can offer liquidity to the SME and financing to SME. At the end of the day, NMO is a very vital tool. The ambitious plan of having the SME sector to participate to 35% of our local GDP is crucial. Perceiving NMO as one of those tools that will support the SME sector to achieve this is very important.
Thank you. So many important points to pick up on. ETFs, debt funds. Also, we want to look at the inclusion of REITs potentially, and also there is an absence, one could argue, of entrepreneurs, SMEs, startups in the tech and mining space. And how do you see the balance of NOMU panning out? What are the trends in terms of sectors?
I think, excuse me, I think NMO is going toward the balance. So right now we only have 10 sectors. So I believe we are missing the entertainment sector and missing the mining sector. Also, I think we are missing some REITs fund in NMO market. With this variety and diversity, I think the market will attract more investors that again will help the liquidity.
Okay. Talk to me about family businesses. So much untapped potential in the kingdom, and so many family businesses, as is the trend the world over, don't tend to survive beyond far less 4 generations. Is listing a way to safeguard them, to sustain them long term? And what about financial education? Are these family firms aware of how they list and why they should list?
Yes, I think listing in NMO is the right fit for family businesses for sustainability. We've seen many family companies collapse after the 2nd generation or the 3rd generation, just because the lack of proper corporate governance. Being listed in NMO, company will have a proper corporate governance which consider the main key for company to enhance their internal capability in terms of management and capital. And I would highly encourage family businesses to really consider listing their companies in NMO market. And I think we, as a financial advisor with a regulator, we should collaborate together to enhance the education, financial education among these families. As we all know, family businesses or the owners, they consider their businesses as their daughters. So when you tell them float 20% to the public of your company, they immediately reject this option. But I think with education that comes from a middle person, or like Tadawul or CMA, family business will look into it in a different way. Because the way they look at us when we visit these family companies, they think that we are selling them a product. But if we collaborate with Tadawul and CMA, I think we will achieve the target.
Thank you. Ahmed, let me come to you on the same point. What are your forecasts in terms of family businesses coming to market, and how do we best educate them and allay any fears? Because it's only fear of the unknown, correct?
I mean, if you want, educating the market is about by practice. I mean, the more we can really encourage the family business owners about governance, about transparency, about efficiency, about maintainability of growth, about the scalability of their business, about how they can really add value to their generation by ensuring the ultimate objective of the NMO market is about the continuation of business. Continuation of business is very important because this will lead the entire economy to be able to create jobs. And if we want to talk about job creation, it is the SME, it is really the name of the game. SME sector who are listed in NMO can, at the end of the day, within 2 to 3 years, be immigrated to the main market. So this will deepen the market. This will give us more diversification. This will give the economy a much healthier position. And over and above that, we have to export those ideas out of our territory. I mean, end of the day, the economy of Saudi Arabia is big enough to show things by example. And family businesses now, I think they are much more aware than before.
Thank you. As we look to wrap up our conversation, Ahmed, I just want to stay with you for a second. Give me a magic prediction. Look into your crystal ball, as they say. In light of the global economic situation, inflationary pressures, the situation in Ukraine and Russia, also where oil is at this current point, what position does the Tadawul and Nomu find itself in? How is it positioned going forward? And what are the implications of these global economic pressures for the markets?
I mean, for sure, if we want to talk about the geopolitics, I mean, end of the day, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, definitely there is a direct or indirect impact. But for sure, I believe that GCC country could be the beneficial. I mean, end of the day, oil price is getting up, and we have to benefit out of this excess revenues that coming to the kingdom, whereby to be invested locally. We should think about our local market. You can't have a strong economy without focusing on your backyard. Our backyard is very important. The diversification among the know-how of the family businesses and the SMEs and the main companies that can generate to the market is very crucial. The technology transformation that have took place in the economy is very remarkable. All these together will give us, will put us aside in a way or another from what's happening in the globe. But end of the day, interest rate is raising. So all these could really impact the borrowing capacity. However, Nomu market can still play a vital role in offering a different kind of liquidity to those SME who's looking for scalability for the future. So I think let's focus on our local market. Our local market is great, and I think we can do a lot of things.
Focusing on the local market, and everything is looking great. Abdullah, coming to you for a final word. Investor appetite and investor confidence, irrespective of anything that's happening outside of our backyard, if we want to use that phrase, would you say that it is strong and the outlook is a bullish one?
I think it's very strong, especially as my colleague Ahmed mentioned about the private equity players. So private equity players now, they have more option of exit strategy, which motivate them to launch their private equity funds. And also, if we look at the again at the multiple valuation that compensate the shareholders after the listing, that will give the private equity players incentive to invest in or acquire companies and list them later on in Nomu as compared to with a less time period as compared to main market IPO.
Thank you very much. Abdulaziz, final word from you. As we have just heard from Abdullah, yes, it's streamlined, it's quicker. The association in many people's minds might be that coming to market is an expensive and a long, drawn-out process. Not so at Nomu. Would you agree? What's your advice to people in the room?
It is a lengthy process, I have to agree, that especially if you want to do it the right way, applying the highest standards. It wasn't an easy journey. I know the regulators had relaxed all the requirements to list on Nomu, but speaking in our case in Jahiz, we actually applied the highest standards like a main market IPO, despite being a Nomu IPO. So I think I encourage everyone to use this journey, the IPO journey, to look into the company, revive your strategy, review your plans. I think it was an excellent opportunity for all the different stakeholders, whether shareholders or employees, to reassess all the objectives and the targets, and I think it had a very positive impact. It was tedious, but very beneficial.
Thank you so much. Mohammed, a final word to you. As we've been hearing, the process for NOMU listing seems to be a painless one. It seems to be very efficient and there's a lot of support there. Would you agree? And for those considering going to market in the next year or so, what would your most important piece of advice be?
I would agree that the process needs to be, you need to do the proper due diligence. And even though going to the NMO market, there are some requirements that are less than the main market. In our case, we did choose to go and do the right due diligence. We wanted to be fair to the investors, and we wanted to show, a complete or a more complete picture. I would reiterate what I said in the beginning, that choosing the right partner, I think, is crucial. The right financial and legal partners, because it's a unique journey to you, and therefore having more understanding about the journey and about what you need to make in regards to decisions, understanding the process, understanding how it affects you, it's very important. And having that right partnership is going to be very important.
Can I make?
Of course, please jump in.
Yes, you had asked some predictions, so I have a few predictions, if you don't mind. I think it's easy to predict at least 5 more technology IPOs in Saudi, and at least 5 more cross-border acquisitions by Saudi companies across the region. I mean, that's an easy. I chose the easier one and left the more difficult one to the seasoned.
And what time scale are we looking at?
I meant this year, 2022. Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, the asset managers in the room, predictions are correct, it would seem. The smart money is in tech going forward for investors?
Well, I think yes. Yes, if you look at it worldwide, it's everywhere. If you look at United States, the same thing. If you go to Europe, it's the same thing. So I think, yes.
Let's make more unicorns. Yes, please, Mohammed, you want to jump in?
I would also comment on what was said previously about family businesses, and it's one thing to think about it and discuss it, and it's another to actually live it. So having discussion forums and platforms such as this one, where people can share their experiences, it does help in formulating the strategy for others to understand where should they go. So regardless of, I would say that more and more companies are in fact really interested in going into the market, and that is and largely what did help in that was more communication, more forums, understanding of the process, understanding of the benefits, and not just the benefits in the short term, the benefits in the long term.
Yes, indeed. Well, we wish those looking to list every success with the process ahead, and you gentlemen continue to trade well on NOMU. Thank you also to our asset managers, financial experts in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to leave our conversation there, but please join me in thanking my esteemed guests for their contribution today. Gentlemen.